Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Local Hour. We're talking the EKU football schedule, previewing and getting you ready, as well as key returning and key new players on the team. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Local Hour.
McKinney looks, steps into pocket, throws, open receiver, touchdown! Colonels, we're not done yet!
Our identity is we're going to press for 40 minutes, we're going to play up-tempo, we're going to play with unbelievable passion, and then our brand is the most exciting 40 minutes in sports.
Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Local Hour. I'm Vince Stover, joined as I will be all summer long and maybe into the future by the one and only Ryan Jackson of EKU football. Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Man, glad to have you joining the team, part of the Sports Stove family now. So far, you are one of only two, well, now third. You're the third member outside of myself. So welcome in. We're excited to have you as part of the team moving forward, getting extra insight into EKU football as we go through the summer. And I always appreciate people who listen, and they always share about these episodes, and we try to do our best to inform people, not just give opinion, but actually information that's going to help people get to know the EKU athletes and sports teams better. And adding Ryan is obviously going to help us do that as well. And our goal is to not get Ryan in trouble over the next couple months, and hopefully we don't ask you a question that gets you in trouble. So, but we're looking forward to it. We are sponsored, by the way, by Mad Mushroom Pizza, located right across the street from EKU's campus, serving Colonel since 2016. Mad Mushroom Pizza is ready to help you and your family enjoy the evening that much more. Home of the original cheese sticks. Mad Mushroom Pizza is a great place. You can go inside and have a seat, enjoy dinner, watching TV, and talking with friends, or you can order to go as well. If you order online, you can use the code SPORTS5. That's SPORTS and the number 5, and you're going to get a discount there, $5 off an order of $20 or more. Or if you go into the store, you can actually just mention the Sports Stove podcast. You can get that same discount as well. All right, so Ryan, we are fastly, that's not a word, quickly approaching the EKU football season. You guys have been busy out there working. I saw some videos today. It looked like it was a little taxing today. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely say so. We do try and go 110% all the time, so you get tired every now and then. But we're just trying to keep working through it.
And now's the time to be tired, right? You got to get it out of the way now. I'm tired just looking at the videos, so it tells you a lot of what I'm going through. Yes, but the season is approaching. You guys have some massive road games to get things started. I was looking through the schedule, preparing for this episode, and looking at the other team's schedule, and I was like, oh my goodness, they're playing Oklahoma State. Oh my goodness, they're playing these people. And I was like, wait a second. EKU's playing Cincinnati and Kentucky. It's the same thing. Coach Wells has talked about, hey, we're not going to shy away from a battle. And the goal is not just to play good teams. It does help when you play good teams when it gets towards the end of the year and working to make the playoffs, having that RPI and all that good stuff there. But it also gives you guys an opportunity to show what you had. And before we get into the schedule this year, look back to last year real quick. Those first couple of games, and of course, it happened following the heart attack by Coach Wells. So you were thrown into the fire right away. But those first two games that you guys had were both really good games, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I would say they were pretty good games. For Coach Wells to go down like that, it was devastating on all of us. It was a big shock to the whole team. But I'll say our coaching staff did a great job. Coach Pete did a great job of leading us in the battle, giving us a pretty hype speech if you ever ask anybody about it. It was one of the better speeches we've had. No offense to Coach Wells. His speeches are good too. But we were definitely ready to go, and we were ready to win, not only for us, but for him too.
Definitely. And, when you look at that situation, how informed were you guys? I know immediately there was a lot of questions, but then we started getting the messages of, hey, there's a team meeting and there's all this stuff going on. I was at church, and I got a message from someone saying, hey, have you heard anything about what's going on? And I was like, not a clue. So I started looking and paying attention to things, and more messages started coming. And and we had no clue. I mean, one person said, "Hey, someone had to have died for what's going on out there."
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, the news broke that it was Coach, and that there was the situation. As it lingered on within the next couple of days, were you guys kept up to date on everything that was happening with him? Like, because it was okay for us to be left wondering, but you guys were trying to get ready for a football game. So
Right.
how was that information flowing?
It was, I don't know. It was up and down. Like sometimes we would get immediate like text back, but most of the time they were just trying to focus on football. Yeah. That's the one thing I'll say. Our coaching staff and our AD, Mr. Rowan, he did a great job of trying to make sure we stayed focused on what was happening. Yes, that's in the concerns, but I've been saying it since I got here. That old man is way too stubborn to die. So he's not going to die. It wasn't last season for sure. It was hard because you wanted to hear the good news. You wanted to hear all the was I happy, but it was not knowing is scary.
Sure,
it was definitely scary.
But yeah, terrifying. But you guys overcame it. If I remember right, I didn't look back at it. If I remember, the first game was within a touchdown, I think, and the second game was the win. Was that the seven overtime game?
Overtimes. So 7 overtimes.
So does all the running you do in the summer prepare you for 7 overtimes?
You would like to think so. You're never prepared for 7 overtimes, let alone the first couple. But you do the extra work. You put the extra miles in as yourself. Sure. As a player, to know that you can play for that long.
Yeah, it was a wild start to the season, and we got some things to talk about that happened during the season as well as we get to them. I put out a Twitter poll this week asking which home game, people were the most excited for: Stephen F. Austin, Austin P, SEMO, or other. And we had a 3-way tie between SEMO, Austin P, and Stephen F. Austin. Wow. So I think everybody's just excited for the season at the end of the day. Is there I'm not going to ask you the home game you're excited for, because I know you're excited for all of them. But let's go to the road games. Is there a place that you're looking forward to going to, either that you haven't been before or a place you've been before that you're excited to see for the first time?
I'm excited to take the trip to Utah. I would say that's going to be cool because I've never been to Utah, and I'm sure we're going to fly. So that would be another fun experience. At least I pray.
Have you flown before?
Yes. Yeah. Because we flew to Sam Houston and Stephen F. 2 years ago. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. And then, but you always bust the Central Arkansas.
Yeah, we do bust. That's a long bus trip too. That's what y'all really don't see. That's a long bus trip.
Everybody talks about that. Was it 2 years ago, I guess, that you guys drove down there last? And I can't imagine with the height that you guys are, the length that you guys are. I know the buses are relatively nice, but that is a long drive. And can I just say that is a butt ugly field.
Agreed.
Okay. Agreed. Yeah. They take pride in the stripes and all that kind of stuff. To me, I look at that and go, that is just disgusting. I'm not a fan of the Boise State field. I'm not a fan of the Eastern Michigan field. Yeah. And I'm not a fan of Central Arkansas fields either. Especially
Central Arkansas's field had wood chips last time I remember going on there.
Wood chips?
Yeah, it was something different. But their field is all over the place. It's a fun game every time we go up there.
Yeah.
But I wish they would always just come play us.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's get into the schedule. We're going to go through it week by week and look at some different things here. And first up is September 2nd. All the games are on Saturday, by the way, this year. You guys had a Friday game. Was it last year or the year before? Do you remember? You had a Friday game at some point. Coach Wells said, I don't know why we play Friday games. Or maybe it was a Thursday game.
I do remember having a Thursday game.
Okay, yeah.
I don't remember what it was for. I don't remember what season either. All the seasons start blending together. But
it was either last season or the season before. But I remember Coach Wells, he's like, college shouldn't have Thursday night games.
No.
And he was not happy about it. But, oh well. But all the games are on Saturday this year. And your 2 games, even though they're on the road to start off, they're not long trips. So September 2nd is at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is their first year in the Big 12. And I was looking through their stats. They have only lost 1 home game since 2018. And that was the last game of the season last year against Tulane. Scott Satterfield is in as the head coach there in Cincinnati now. When you look at the opportunity to go play a Power 5 school, so you got Cincinnati and Kentucky. We'll get to Kentucky in a minute. But you look at that first game of the year, and it's against the newly minted Cincinnati in the Big 12. I don't know what kind of excitement is there. I know it's the first game of the season, so that's exciting enough. Right. Is there something that is more exciting going into a Power 5 school versus just any other school?
I feel like all schools are the same once you get on the field with them. And I feel like after 4 years of playing tough teams for the first couple games, I'm kind of used to it now. But I would say it's definitely – it gets you excited, especially for the chance to win.
Yeah.
Or beat a team like that. And we got a lot of guys from Ohio, from Cincinnati on the team who's already been talking crap to their players. So I'm sure it's going to be a battle. I feel like anytime we step on the field, we should just attempt, like Wells always says, expect to win.
Yeah.
That as long as we go out with that attitude, I'm confident in our team with anybody.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this the other day. I'm going to ask Coach Wells this the next time I have him on, which is going to be in about 2 months. But are you able to admit that there is such thing as a moral victory? Now, I know the goal is to always win the game. But if you go into Cincinnati and let's say you lose on a last-second field goal, as disheartening as that would be, to prove the fact that you guys are at that level, that you can run with and be right there with the opportunity to win, wouldn't that be a somewhat, at least, of a little bit of moral victory?
You'll feel good in the moment. Afterwards, a loss is a loss. The first time I felt a moral victory is when we almost beat Troy, and they rushed the field like they had just won the Super Bowl. That's the only time. Not saying it feels good, but it's like, y'all shouldn't have. If y'all were that good, we shouldn't have been in the ball game with you.
Yeah. I know what Coach Wells is going to say, but I'm still going to ask him next time I have him on, because this is the year that I think you don't have to win the first 2 games. It would be great if you do, obviously. The key is being in a position to win the game, giving yourselves an opportunity to win the game.
Right.
And I think you can walk out of there with your heads held high, even if it's with a loss. And I can say this as a fan. I understand why Coach won't say this, but I think it's still true. I think that, and I'm a coach. I coach high school basketball. Right. There are games we walk into that I know we have no business winning. We feel like if we're going to play them, we have a chance to win. And if we can be right there with an opportunity to win, I see that as a moral victory, as much as moral victories don't count in the grand scheme of things, I suppose. But Cincinnati first year in the Big 12, does that, if they weren't in the Big 12, does it matter? I mean, no.
It's never, like I said, it's never mattered. I love competing, and it's better when you get to compete against the best, or what people perceive as the best.
Yeah.
Especially when you make a play against the best. Now, are you the best? I mean, but you get to make highlights and you get to make plays, and people are going to see it. That's the best part. People are going to see play.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because the same is true with the Kentucky game too, and with several of the other games on the schedule. But I mean, you got scouts that are going to be in Cincinnati to watch Cincinnati players. All of a sudden now you guys can open some eyes, right? And get the opportunity to say, hey, this guy didn't come to see me, but he's going to see me.
Right.
Let's show him something tonight.
That's been amazing, especially with the past guys we've had. That's brought scouts and brought more recruits to our practice and stuff. You should see how hard people be going now. But that's just to know that any chance you get, it's your opportunity to make it. You have to make the most out of your opportunities.
Yeah, and now we're talking about the schedule, but I'll say this since it's come up. You've got 3 guys right now in an NFL camp. You got 2 guys in the Titans. You got 1 guy in Jacksonville, Willie, who took the path to the XFL first and then into the camp with the Jaguars. I mean, is there anybody, you don't have to name them, but was there anybody that was like, hey, I got an opportunity now?
Oh, everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. It's the best when you can finally see it. Yeah. You know you have a chance. You know you have a shot. But once you see one of your friends finally get there, the reach gets a little bit closer.
I love it.
A little bit more.
Yeah. So Cincinnati, game number 1. It's going to be fun up in Cincinnati, of course, there as well. They've got a lot of hype just because of their move to the Big 12. And again, they've had a couple really good years stacked together as well. So that'll be a fun game. Game number 2 is the next week, September 9th, and it's at Kentucky, just up the road. I like to call it Roy Kidd North. I think I'm the only one that calls it that, but nonetheless. Now, let me ask you this. I was thinking about this earlier too. I should have asked you off the air, but I didn't. So you and I grew up in relatively the same area in Middle Tennessee. I was a little further south than you, but we're in the same similar area. I grew up back in the heyday of Philip Fulmer, Peyton Manning, T. Martin. That was my era. And we were Tennessee fans growing up. And my dad hated Vanderbilt, so we were never Vanderbilt fans, but we were Tennessee fans growing up. And we always looked at Kentucky as, almost like Vanderbilt, just kind of like football, Kentucky football, as kind of like, now they have been better the last several years. They've had some good years. I think Mark Stoops is a very good coach. I'm not trying to be mean to Kentucky, but did you grow up the same way I did, looking at Kentucky football as kind of like the lowest tier of the SEC?
I didn't really watch surprisingly, I didn't watch a lot of college football even growing up. I didn't know a lot about Kentucky until I started getting recruited by them. But once you start seeing the recruits and you see the games, I guess I would say so. But I wouldn't look at Vanderbilt like that because my uncle played at Vanderbilt. And he
okay. I apologize to your uncle. That's just the way I was raised. My dad was an anti. Now, we went to more Vanderbilt games than anything because it was the closest. But we would go to cheer on MTSU, or we'd go to I watched Tim Couch play Vanderbilt, actually, when Kentucky came to town once. Anyways, that being said, you guys get to play Kentucky, and they have been decent. Last year, they were 7-6. 5-3 at home, but they had Will Levis, who was, one of the top quarterbacks coming into the draft this season. They're going to replace him with Devin Leary. He's a transfer. He has lots of experience and should be pretty good as well. I know you can't tell us exactly what Coach Wells has said about that game, but I know it's already on his mind. And so is the preparation for this summer looking already to those first 2 games and even more specifically to Kentucky?
Our preparation's always one game at a time, but I would say we're putting in the work now to definitely go out there and put on a show against those 2.
Yeah.
Especially to beat Kentucky, that'd be really – we'll start calling them
Roy Kidd
North.
Yeah. So, and I get that. So growing up in Tennessee, Jeff Fisher used to call the Jaguar Stadium Adelphia South. And anyways, so I started calling it Roy Kidd North. But you got 2 new assistant coaches, Maxwell Smith, former Kentucky quarterback, CJ Conrad, former Kentucky tight end. Now, obviously, Coach Wells was an assistant there, has ties there, very much appreciates the people there. They've been very good to the University of, EKU. They've been good EKU all around. But I know it's one of those things where, so I'll tell you this. I had a guy on Twitter. I was not talking nice about Kentucky on Twitter, and he apparently looked at my profile and saw that I covered EKU, and he started bashing the fact that fans go and get drunk at EKU's tailgate, and then they go to the Kentucky game. And because I was giving a hard time about the drinking that's allowed at UK now, and I said, yeah, in order to enjoy a Kentucky game, you have to be drunk. But and they didn't appreciate that for some reason. I don't understand why. But that being said, there are people who look at EKU as little brother or cousin or whatever, and they look down on the university. And you guys have an opportunity to go up and represent the university, represent Madison County, represent Richmond. And obviously you're always representing yourselves and your team and all that kind of stuff too. So that Kentucky game is going to get a lot of hype. And I think that, again, you guys have a squad, and we're going to go through the position and talk about the players over the next several weeks. You guys have a squad, though, that is built to compete right now, right?
Yes, sir. We are ready to go. And I hope we take a bus of students and we drive all to Kentucky together.
Yeah. It needs to be a lot of maroon. I think the stadium should be at least a third full of maroon. in that game. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be.
Right.
I've been invited to a tailgate, by the way. They said, "Hey, come, you can come. You want to do your show? You can do your show, whatever." And I'm like, I don't know if you guys are ready for that.
Right. I'm
But
not going to talk good about y'all.
that's right. That's exactly right. So I'm hoping that it's a good showing, and I know people are going to enjoy it. It's going to be a good time there. So as you guys are preparing this summer, the next game is Cincinnati. So that's going to be the majority of your work. How far? I know the idea is one game at a time, but obviously, in order to be prepared, you got to think out a little bit. So is there anything going on right now preparing for the first two games, or is it all Cincinnati?
I would say the only thing we've really done is done us. We've gone over our install mostly.
Yeah.
We haven't looked into super game planning for them because they're all getting new players, new coaches. It not that it would be a waste of our time, but it would be hard pressed to look at something and it not be that.
Sure.
You can do a deeper scouting later.
Yeah.
But for right now, we're trying to get more players to know our system because we got a lot of new guys. Then we need to learn our system a little bit better.
Makes sense. And I'm pretty sure Kentucky's got a game before you guys as well. You guys obviously have one game before too. So hopefully that gives you guys at least some video of what they do have. And you as opposed to going into Cincinnati blind, you'll get Kentucky at least with a game under their belt. The third game of the season is the first home game, September 16th, Western Carolina. Western Carolina was 6-5 last year, 2-4 on the road. All their success pretty much came at home last year. This is not the first time y'all have played them, but what do you know about Western Carolina? I know you're not game planning for them yet, but what do you remember about them?
Last time we played them, the first time we played them was the Opportunity Bowl, and that was they don't want to talk about that one. The next time we played them was at their place, and it was really competitive. It was good. They had got a bunch of new players. They had got a new coach, a new system, and they gave us some work. I'm excited for the trilogy between us. I think they're a team that's definitely earned our respect over the past couple of years, and we're gonna try and beat them just like we beat everybody else. I got some friends on that team. I can't wait to talk crap about after the game and probably before the game. But that one's exciting because you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
You don't know what team you're going to get from them sometimes. Because they could play as like the first time in the Opportunity Bowl, or they could still play as like the competitive team they did last 2 years, something like that.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah. Game 4 is another home game. So you go back-to-back road to start the year, then back-to-back home games. And it's SEMO in September 23rd, Southeast Missouri State. They were 9-3 last year, but one of those 3 losses came to EKU. EKU won 28-23 at SEMO, so on the road. SEMO was 5-2 on the road last year. They lost in the FCS playoffs to Montana, 24-34. You guys went into their place. This was a big win for you guys last year, and you went in and took care of business there. And obviously, they're going to want to try to come in and return the favor. When you got those kind of games where you went on the road and beat someone who had a phenomenal year last year, obviously that win had to have felt great. But then when you see them on the schedule coming to you, what goes through your mind, I guess, with that situation?
You gotta just keep stepping on them. I can't let them return the favor on us, because I hope to be rolling by that point, like still winning, still on the way up, kind of like how we caught them.
Yeah.
So I hope we come fully prepared, fully ready to go, and I know they will, because they're gonna want that revenge, kind of like when Austin Peay got us back. They're gonna want that win.
Yes, they are, and we'll get to Austin Peay in a second. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun game. I like these home games this year. Western Carolina, Tarleton State are both interesting home games. Austin Peay is again, where I grew up. We made fun of Austin Peay, and so I just kind of carry that over. Now, did your dad go to Austin Peay, or did he go to Western?
He went to Western Kentucky.
Okay. I remembered it was somewhere, but okay. Anyways, and then Stephen F. Austin, of course, can be fun too. We'll get to all that. Game number 5 of the season, September 30th, is at North Alabama. When you look at North Alabama, last year they were 1-10, only 1-4 at home. When you look at those numbers, you go, man, this team was horrible. Well, EKU won 56-53 at home. And this is going to be a little painful for you. I got a couple of these painful ones today. EKU's defense allowed 356 rushing yards, 215 passing yards, and a nail biter against a team that you weren't the only one that North Alabama took to the wire. They had a couple really close games last year. But that was one that I remember walking out of the stadium, and the conversation it shouldn't have been that close. But you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I would. I hate to say I would agree because I feel like we should have stomped them too, but they were catching fire late in the season. They really started figuring out their offense and how they were going to play off Shenderick because he was the biggest part of their offense. Their quarterback came out there and started dealing. The receivers were. It was one of those games where you looked up and everything was kind of going their way.
Yeah,
and it was hard because we weren't playing the most sound defense in the world, but we've played worse and got away with worse, if that makes sense. Like people have still played bad and still made plays like those. The way their O-line was, I don't want to say not blocking because I don't know what their offense is at all, or I know the scheme that they ran, but the way they could get in the way just enough for that little dude to split out of there and score, it was ridiculous. It was almost like you were playing Madden on the field. Out of nowhere, he'd just take one to the house.
Yeah. What was the conversation like after the game? Because it was a win, so you're thinking, all right, celebration. But I'm guessing there were some, maybe not right after the game, maybe it was the first practice. When does that conversation happen of, hey guys, congrats on winning, but seriously?
Right. The awkwardness is usually between after you win to the Monday meeting that morning. Because Coach Wells he's a character. He'll come in there, he'd be like, everybody's kind of quiet. He'd be like, why are we not celebrating? We won. And like something. And then everybody starts going crazy. And then he gets into the real talk about like, yeah, that was horrible still. Like something along those lines. Yeah. And you eat that one later that night. Then Sunday you recover. Monday you come back to the team meetings and we usually go over what we did well and what we didn't do well. There was a lot of what we didn't do well that day. But there was a lot of what we did well. So our offense was on fire. Our offense was an absolute tank. We just couldn't defensively. We crapped the bed on that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember that one pretty clearly. Actually, it was in the press box. There was a little bit of grumbling going on, needless to say. Not from me, by the way. I was happy for the win. I shouldn't say that. I probably grumbled a little bit. But anyways, that one's on the road. Then you're back home October 14th against Tarleton State, 6-5 last year, 2-3 on the road. They've got a local kid, Bo Allen, at quarterback. He was at Kentucky, transferred to Tarleton State last year. According to their website, he's still on the roster. I thought I heard he was going to transfer. But 23 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He's a legit quarterback. He's a guy that can stand toe-to-toe with Parker, and obviously we love Parker and think the world of him. But Bo Allen's really good. This Tarleton State game, I think, is going to be different than the last time you guys faced them. As well. So when you look at that growth, I mean, you guys have grown. So when you're looking at these other teams that you didn't play last year, but you played a couple years ago, what kind of expectation, I guess, do you have for them? Do you look at them and go, I can't take into account anything I saw from them 2 years ago, and it's all brand new, or how do you look at it?
The one thing I would say is, they're going to be big. That's the one thing I remember going out there and being like, wow, these are some big people. Like they recruit some really huge people. Like if I had to say one thing, that's one thing you can expect going in. And they play, at least the last time we played them, they played like a slower pace, but they were efficient, effective plays. So that's before I get the whatever our game plan is, because I don't know how they're going to play this year. But if I had to think of anything, I would expect to play larger people.
Yeah. And you guys have gotten larger in the last 2 years, by the way, as well. Actually, I'd like to see the numbers on that. I think you guys have gotten drastically larger since 2 years ago, but I could be wrong. You throw a couple of these K-Ron Calberts in, and you start getting bigger pretty fast. Then you go on the road for 2 games. October 21st is Gardner-Webb. Gardner-Webb, 7-6 last year, 3-1 at home. They were the playoff game. They won 52-41. And again, I know this is painful, but we got to talk about it. 405 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. You held them to only 118 yards and 1 touchdown passing. But I remember sitting at this game going, and there were different rules in the press box, by the way, for this game, because it was not technically an EKU home game. It was a playoff game and all this kind of stuff. So we were given the warning in the press box: no cheering. You're not allowed to openly cheer and stuff like that, because it was an official, playoff game. And there was at least twice that I can remember Rickson having to stand up and say, guys, can't do that. So over 400 yards rushing in that game, the last game you guys played last year. So how does that one stick in the head?
That one hurts. It hurts and it motivates at the same time.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, that's how it felt. It hurt because, man, we could have made history. Man, we could have done something special. Man, we could have done something for these seniors that's about to leave. I hate for this to be the way they go out.
Yeah.
But it motivates me to be like, that's what the feeling is like. That's what the playoff atmosphere is like. I want that again.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel this again.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a really interesting game. Again, it ended up being 52-41, but there was a lot of just, man, my goodness, that's another game like that North Alabama game where it just felt like the running backs could not be stopped. And when you're in a game like that, like I know it's hard, and I know you're sitting there going, gracious, we got to have an answer for this. How much is it when you come back to the sideline where everyone's trying to figure out what's going on? Is it pointing fingers? Is it encouraging? Is it yelling? Like what's going on the sideline?
The worst thing you can do is attempt to cause tension between the brotherhood. Like we're still a unit regardless. There shouldn't be any blaming, no finger pointing. It should just be correcting. So when you come onto the sideline in a game like that and you're all confused because you don't want to blame anybody, but you don't know whose fault it is.
Right.
So it's more of a confusion, attempting to figure it out, needing a little bit of help. And you just hope that you and your coaches can get everything worked out to where you'll start working better. Yeah. We'll start at least getting the right way. But they had us schemed. I'll say they did a really good job. They did a really good job preparing for us. They did a good job coming in with the intent to win. I feel like we just weren't tough enough in some scenarios. There felt like times we could have made the extra effort, could have made the tackle, could have caught one.
Yeah.
And I think that's why our programs changed for the better. We've added a toughness program to where we're trying to get tougher. We're trying to fight through more adversity.
Sure. Yeah, I like it. I'm glad to hear that too. And that's exciting to see the growth. Again, that's one thing, I've not been around that long. I've been in Richmond since 2020. So, but to see the growth just in that time, I talked about the size of the team has already grown, but you see that mentality changing and growing for the positive, and what Coach Wells is instilling, what the coaching staff is instilling is definitely, it's being seen. That brings us to October 28th, and that's your big road trip to Utah Tech, or flight trip. Last year, 4-7, they were 3-2 at home. They had wins over Stephen F. Austin and Tarleton State last year. They had some close games, actually. They look like they're a good team, and 4-7 doesn't really show you what kind of team they are, I guess. Obviously, you guys have already looked at that game as far as the travel and all that kind of stuff. Have you done any looking into what the team is like? Because I'm guessing you've never seen Utah Tech before.
I have never seen nor heard of Utah Tech until last year. That's no offense to them. I just don't have all that much knowledge other than the people we play. Yeah. But I can't wait to look into them. The fact that they beat Stephen F. is a big one. I can't wait to see that game.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to think about them other than they're in Utah.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get my hands on those guys too.
I'm the same way. I do a lot of research into college football. Me and my dad, we're getting ready to start on Wednesday night shows, going through each of the Power 5 conferences and breaking them down and predicting stuff and all that kind of stuff. I had not heard of Utah Tech either. And had someone just said, hey, have you ever heard of Utah Tech? I wouldn't have thought they even had a football team just from the name of the school. But they do. And like I said, at 4-7, I don't think tells you exactly how good they are. So that'll be a fun game to see for everybody. Kind of get introduced to something new out there. I'm a little jealous. I've been out west several times, a lot of time in Arizona. and sometime in Colorado, but never Utah. And so maybe I'll have to jump on the plane somehow or get out there. But anyways, November 4th then brings Austin Peay to town. And 7-4 last year. They were only 3-3 on the road. They did lose. Let's see. No, they beat EKU 31-20 in Clarksville last year. They had this one was tough in the sense you guys were up 20-3 at halftime, and then the script got flipped. That's the right way to say it. They scored 30 or 28 unanswered. I think maybe even 28 unanswered points to win, all in the 21 of those points in the fourth quarter. Again, I grew up making fun of Austin Peay, so I was disappointed in this loss because I was kind of making fun of him before the game. But anyways, that game was tough. Like you mentioned them earlier, they came back and got revenge on you guys. So now it's your turn, right?
For sure. I can't wait. Can't wait to get my hands on Austin Peay again, and they're coming to us.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a show.
Now you probably got friends on Austin Peay, don't you?
I got a couple. I know a lot of people on Austin Peay's team. It's gonna be a fun environment because those type games is where we get a lot of people.
Yeah.
For some reason, a lot of people end up coming to games like that one because that one's gonna be competitive. They play a very high motor, high energy offense. They're real in your face. We're more athletic. We're faster than you. And you just, once you calm down the hype, they really do stop talking until obviously the hype train starts back up.
Yeah. Austin Peay is a school. I mean, last year's game, again, it's one of those things where you're sitting there going, what's happening? Like, I mean, 20-3 at halftime, everybody was just like, hey, we got this one in the bag. This one's a great time. Yeah, and then things changed drastically in the fourth quarter. Again, the third quarter, I think they only scored a touchdown in the third, excuse me. But then they put up 3 in the fourth, and you just kind of watched it begin to slip away as it went on. And that was rare last year, especially for the offense to stall like that.
Right.
To have a whole half where they couldn't get on the board. That was rare. And, you guys – it seemed like last year in games like North Alabama, for example, the offense picked you guys up, picked up the defense. In that game, you guys were hanging on for dear life, and the offense they couldn't do it. What is that like in a game where usually there's consistency to a degree on the offensive side, and there just wasn't in that game?
Right. It's another thing where you don't like pointing blame, but you're like, man, I wish y'all could really score. It's more of a hope because you have to have confidence in your own offense. Like we all have confidence in Parker. We all have confidence that they can score.
Yeah.
So when they come up short and time again, you just got to keep going out there, keep going to score. We're gonna get you a stop eventually. We're gonna get you a stop. You gotta try and score. And then when it just slowly starts slipping away, you don't even really think about, man, the offense couldn't score. I start thinking about like, man, what could I have done differently?
You're sure. Yeah.
What plays could I have made?
Yeah.
Or is there something I missed?
I think I know the answer to this, so that's why I'm willing to ask it. With your guys' team, I know you're still getting to know the team right now, but has the continuity been good between offense and defense?
I would say so. It's actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's more competitive. Like we butt heads, but right after that, we're ready to go again. When we compete in all these runs, people mess up. You tell them do 5 up downs, get back in, and we're going again. It's been different this season. For some reason, it feels like we're bonding and meshing better instead of just being like these older guys are over here, the younger guys are over here. It's like little cliques.
Sure.
I think we have less of that and more of a team. No offense to that last team. I love the last team. We had a blast. That was a great team, but this one just feels a little bit different.
Awesome. November 11th, we'll take you on the road to those ugly stripes, Central Arkansas. Last year they were 5-6, 2-3 at home. You guys won 42-14. Oh, I bet that felt good. And I wanted to point out this because we've been pointing out the rough games. You guys held them to 171 rushing yards, 157 passing yards. And they were 0 for 3 on fourth down conversions in that game as well. And our very own Ryan Jackson had 2 tackles in that game too. I didn't look up all the other ones, but for some reason I looked up that one as well. 42-14. I know that one felt really good.
It felt great because it was the first time we felt like, man, everything came together at the right time. Offense, defense, special teams. We were hitting on all cylinders. It was a game we were fully prepared for, knew the outcome we could have, knew we had battles with these guys in the past, and to go out there and steal the show in front of the crowd was awesome.
Yeah. That's always a fun game. That ever since the COVID year when you guys played them twice, that just kind of built the rivalry between you guys, and it's always just a fun. I feel like it's a really fun game. The players get excited about it, and of course, you got more and more players now that weren't around for that COVID year, but I know that's been a fun one there. Then you close out the regular season before you go on your playoff run. November 18th against Stephen F. Austin. They're 6-5 last year, 3-1 on the road. The last time you guys played them was 2021. Tough game. You guys lost 17-31. And that year, I mean, they were one of the top teams that year as well. And so now they're coming here, and you get an opportunity to redeem your guys' selves from 2021. How excited are you to face them again?
I like, for all of them, I'm ready. I can't wait to play them again because I feel like we owe them one. We owe them one good tail kicker. We owe them one good one. I'm excited to play them because it's another Texas team. All those people come in huge. Huge people. They're real ground and pound. They're gonna use their bodies against you. Like, they're big people, and they're gonna try and grind you down and run the ball, and then dump off a little pass to one of their fast Texas kids. But I feel like that's always a competitive game, even in the losses. Those games, if you really watch how much we're thumping in the trenches, or how much it's really competitive throughout. In both games, even with the bad outcomes for us, I'm excited because I feel like we owe them one.
Sure, I'm excited for it too. I was excited to see it on the schedule, and that it's at home. That made me pretty excited as well to get a chance to see that one there. So that's the schedule for this year. We're not doing predictions or anything like that. We're not going to ask Ryan to predict how many games you're going to win because you'll say all of them, and so we're not going to do that. I will do some predictions later on before the season starts, but we're not going to do that here and not do that tonight. We're going to take a quick break. Have a couple commercials from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to talk key returning players and introduce you to some new guys as well. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. Mad Mushroom Pizza is now a proud sponsor of the Sports Stove Podcast. Mad Mushroom, home of the original cheese sticks. Proudly serving EKU's campus, Mad Mushroom offers Colonel's amazing pizza, cheese sticks, wings, grinders, and so much more. Next time you visit, tell them the Sports Stove sent you, and you'll get $5 off any order over $20. Or visit online, madmushroom.com, and when you order, enter the code SPORTS5, SPORTS5, and you'll get that $5 off any order over $20. Mad Mushroom, feed your head.
With over 20 years of experience, Matt Schaefer and the good folks at locally owned IPM Pest and Termite provides pest control service for all of Central Kentucky's pest control needs. Whether you have a current pest control problem or want to prevent infestation from ever entering your home, IPM Pest and Termite offers maintenance programs that will help keep pests out of your home and provide peace of mind. So for dependable, reliable services that you can count on, get in touch with our good friend Matt Schaefer at IPM Pest and Termite today at myipm.com. That's myipm.com.
Does the exterior of your home need a facelift? All Around Roofing has you covered. All Around Roofing is a locally owned company servicing Madison County and all of Central Kentucky. From roof repairs and replacements to gutters, siding, windows, soffits, chimney flashings, and more. All Around Roofing provides quality work and friendly service that will leave your house looking great. Call today, 859-489-5179 to get a free quote. That's 859-489-5179. We can handle your all-around exterior needs at All Around Roofing. Welcome back into the Sports Stove Local Hour presented by Mad Mushroom Pizza. And we're proud also to have IPM Pest and Termite and All Around Roofing with us as well. And by the way, if you live in Madison County and that storm came through and caused all kinds of damage, All Around Roofing is a great company to get a hold of. We're on their list. They're going to come check out our church roof as it's got some damage to it. And so I love All Around Roofing. We've used them at our house as well as our church. Same with IPM Pest and Termite and Mad Mushroom. We've had it at the house and church as well. So give them a call if you got damage. They'll take care of you. And I promise you, they're good people. All right, let's talk about some of the players on the team. Again, we're going to be going through position previews, not this coming week, but the week following. We'll start that up. So 2 weeks from now, we'll get that rolling. But again, from the outside looking in, I can say, hey, it's good these guys are coming back. But I want to hear from you, Ryan, some of the key returning players. We'll start on offense. Some guys, maybe 3 or 4 guys that you say, man, these guys being back is a big deal for us.
Yeah, obviously you got the obvious ones like Parker, B. Sloan, Jado, Peyton, Josiah. I like the ones I want to talk about are guys that are coming back and that are big impacts that you may not completely know about, but they're been there the whole time. One is our left guard, Vincent Munlin. I think he is a super hard worker. I think he's put in the time and the craft for this to be his second start. I hope he lights it on fire. I hope he takes it and runs with it. He's one of the people from Cincinnati who's super excited for that game.
Yeah,
and he's also my roommate, so I gotta talk good about him. Another one, he's another one of my favorite players on the offense is Josh Carter. I think as a compliment to B. Sloan, he is awesome. He's a good downhill runner. He has a good attitude about practice and comes every day just to work. And I really do appreciate that about Josh. And I think the sky's the limit for him when it comes to stuff like that. Another person I like on the team, Reese. He's been here the same amount of time as I have. Reese Atkins. He's our tight end, and it's another one of those guys you feel like it's his turn. He's finally waited all the time. He's been behind Dak. He's been behind Joseph. It's his time to finally show out and make some plays, and I hope he does. And the last one is Bryant Johnson, BJ. I only laugh because he's one of my better friends on the team too. He'll be able to show out at receiver this year because we're losing a lot of receiver, and I hope he gets to fill that. Not Higgins' role, but I hope he gets to make his own way and has his own career. I think he's another one of those guys. It feels like it's finally his turn. It's his time.
I love it. Yeah, and you mentioned all the guys that I had on my list, and when you ran through those names fast, the obvious guys, right? Parker, Braden Sloan, Josiah Ezram's interesting because after the pro day this past year. I don't know if you guys know this or not, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Josiah was getting draftable grades this year. And this was his first full year at offensive line at the college level. And, this kid is something. And I'm not sure that everybody understands. He took advantage of an opportunity last year and got that starting role at right tackle. And this kid, the expectation is that he's getting drafted. When he goes out. And if he's already got a draftable grade now, I know the Senior Bowl is paying attention to him. I saw him tag him in a post the other day. So, this kid is going to be something special. It looks like he's going to add a lot as he continues to grow in that position, especially, right?
Josiah is a freakish athlete, ridiculous athlete. He's the strongest dude in the weight room. He's probably top 5, top 10 fastest guys in the room. He is a ridiculous athlete, but he is the goofiest person you will ever talk to. He is funny. He loves games. He loves basketball. He loves donuts. The dude is hilarious. And he's grown so much since I first got here. And that's hard to say because he's older than me, obviously. But I got to see him when we all first got here and he was playing D-line.
Right.
And it just wasn't working for him. And then they finally moved him over to O-line. He was bouncing back and forth between guard and tackle. And you just had a bunch of people telling him, like, bro, if you lock in, if you put in the work, bro, you have a chance. You have a chance. And I'm happy that he's finally put in the work to see that all the stuff that we were saying is true for him. And I hope this sky's the limit for Josiah. He can do nothing but continue to get better because he's constantly learning.
Are you able to give him a hard time and be like, dude, you couldn't beat me out, so you had to go play O-line?
Of course. I love, but I'm that guy on the team. I want to say asshole, but I'm the guy. If they say bump you Ryan Jackson, I'll be like, yeah, you're probably right. That's on me. But Joe's my buddy. I love messing with Joe, hanging out with Joe. Yeah, I wish the best for him.
Now on the defensive side, I'm not allowing you to give us 11 guys. So I'm telling you can only give us 3 or 4. So when any of your teammates be like, dude, why didn't you mention me? You just blame it on me. I didn't let you do it.
Right. That's another thing.
Jalen Harrod's the guy that I got on my list. The guy that I go, man, I've been watching him play, watching him take advantage of his opportunities. And another guy like, man, and last year we got to see more, but it's like, man, it's your time. Go take what you've earned.
Yeah, I love Jalen. Me and him came in the same class. He's also worked. It's crazy to see how much we've worked and grown, and now it's our turn. I'm gonna keep saying that because it finally is. I feel like this is the time where my class finally gets rolling, and you would hope for it too. I think Jalen's come in. He's been a great add, not only as a character but as a football player. Mm-hmm. He's a heck of a blitzer. He generates a lot of pressure. Heck of a zone player. You see, he got the interception last year.
Yep.
And you could tell he's a character with the little animated stuff he does after all that. But he's awesome. I love Jalen.
Who else is big returning players on the defensive side of the ball?
Another one is my running mate next to me, Darian Baker. He's the end. Once again, it's one of those times where he's sat and waited patiently too. He's slowly gotten better, and he's slowly changed his attitude since our freshman year to where he wants the playing time. He wants the experience. He's had to sit behind great ends that we've had. We've had Elijah Taylor. We've had Kelton Dawson. We've had Rolling Wild. He's had to sit behind great players. But now, like I said before, it's his turn, and I hope he makes the most of it. And I hope me and him continue our great connection, great bond on the field.
Well, you guys have had, you mentioned 2 guys. They're transfer guys that have come in from some pretty big places. And, this year, it's not that you didn't bring any transfers in, but it seems like it's your guys' time, right? And you saw more snaps last year than you saw previously, and he did too. But like you said, man, it's your time. And I'm excited to see what that D-line does this year. Who else is returning on the defensive side that you think is a big addition or a return?
Another big piece would be our safety, Mike Smith, our transfer from App State last year. He's had to come in and sit back behind guys like Joe Sales, who are also another great stud safety that we had. But Mike showed a lot of glimpse last year throughout the season. I hope he gets to put it all together and gets a full, healthy season to where he can come out and ball. Because one thing about that kid, he does like playing, he does like hitting, and he loves having fun.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing about Mike. You'll always see him with a smile on his face. He's always laughing, joking with other guys, making fun of people. Because he's from Florida. They all talk kind of crazy to me. But after a year, I finally got to where I can understand him more often. So I'm excited for Mike. And I'm excited for
Anybody else on the D-line or defensive side of the ball?
I'll say one more. My little dude Bembry. He's a corner coming back. I won't say he had a stellar season, but he came out, he balled, he ended up starting for us a bunch of games. He made that crazy interception at SEMO to end the game. I hope he goes out and he turns into a leader of that group. I hope, because that's the one thing we don't have like a face piece or a shoulder piece for the DBs.
Right.
This year the DBs are coming. They are playing hard. They have worked. They have put in the work there. I hope this is a great season for our DBs, and I wish Bembry could be the leader of them. Yeah, because he's oldest, most experienced. I think he'll be good.
Yeah, 2 years ago you had Davion Ross, and he showed out in that year, and he ended up taking off to Memphis. Last year, you had a couple different guys. You mentioned Joe Sales at safety, John Blunt at corner. There were other people there too, but as far as that the fans knew and things like that, the defensive backs this year, when it comes to just a general knowledge of those guys, the average fan doesn't know a whole lot about the DBs this year. So I'm excited to introduce them to everybody when we have them on the show, but for them to show out to when they get their chance. Give me one or two new guys on each side of the ball that we're gonna notice at some point this season.
Offensively, I would probably have to shout out Jackson. Dang, did I just forget that? Jackson Hensley. He's a transfer that came in. He's filled in a big deep threat need at receiver for us, and he's just a gritty, tough kid. Like I won't say he's kid because he's basically bald, but that's whatever. But Jackson, he's a good attitude. That's the one thing I will say. Coach Wells has done a good job when he brings in kids and brings in transfers. We all seem to have around the same type of attitude about stuff. More put your head down and work than try and complain about something. And that's something Jackson. You don't hear him complain a lot. He comes in, works. He makes crazy catches in practice so far. So I hope he makes them in the game.
Yeah. What about defensively? Who's a new guy that we're gonna know?
Y'all get to learn Frankie West's little name a lot through all the accolades he's probably already has coming in from Fresno State, but he has been a great add just to the team in general. He is super positive, super nice. Not on the field. That dude's a tool on the field. He's just great. Ball skills are awesome. Speed's awesome. It's just you get to finally see one of our corners that's going to do what he's supposed to do, and he's proven snaps. He has the stats from last year. You just hope he can put it together this year too.
Yeah, adding them in, it's going to be fun. I wanted to talk about two guys. You actually mentioned one of them already, but you got two guys on the team, maybe more, but these are the two that I found with interesting family lines. Jacob Horn comes in, wide receiver transfer. His dad, Joe Horn, played when I was a kid for the Saints. And then he's got a brother, J.C. Horn, who was a top 10 draft pick for the Panthers. Right. He's got another brother that played in the XFL too. Yep. And then you got Joshua Carter, whose brother plays for the Jets, and Michael Carter. These guys have seen what it takes firsthand from their family, what it takes to get to the next level. Does that bring anything? Do they bring anything with them with that knowledge, or are they just kind of just trying to be a part of the team?
I don't know. I would say the best thing about those two, you wouldn't know their family lives unless you really asked them. They put in that much work. They've seen how hard you got to work. Every now and then you can get a little, hey, what does your brother do in the NFL? Or is it cool to have your brother in the NFL? And they'll be like, yeah, of course it's cool. And Josh come through with his nice little clothes and backpacks and all that. And shades. He got all the shades. But I don't know, because I haven't gotten to where I talk to them enough to get that type of experience from them. Yeah. But just from the casual conversations I've had with them, their dad couldn't have been famous at all, and they'd still be here at EKU, still trying to grind and win.
Yeah, and with them being on the offensive side of the ball, it makes sense. You don't have as much relationship, I guess, especially with them being new as well, or relatively new. Josh was here last year. I didn't know if you'd go to Josh and be like, dude, what is your brother saying about Aaron Rodgers? Like, is he
I did go over to him the other day. I was like, bro, I just saw your brother on TikTok. He's like, no way. I just saw him too. Josh is.
I had Josh on the show last year on one of the shows. It was a good interview. I enjoyed talking to him for sure. And but it is interesting. I mean, you look at these guys again. I mean, Joe Horn, Jacob's dad. I knew him, again when I was probably in high school, I guess. But when he was with the Saints, and that's really cool. And then his brother, though, being a top 10 pick in the NFL. I mean, that's legit. That's legit. So it's neat to have those guys. And again, they get to see firsthand. I mean, that they spent time in the gym with their brothers working out. I know Josh. That's when I talked to him last year. We talked about that a little bit, but that's pretty cool as well. I text my dad. My dad's always interested in little storylines. What's going on? Who'd you guys add? All that kind of stuff. And so those are the kind of things we get to talk about as well. So. Well, that's the breakdown of the schedule for this year. A couple guys that have been mentioned as well. And like I said, in 2 weeks, we're going to start the position previews. We're going to be bringing on the position coaches. We did this last year and really enjoyed that. So we got new guys to meet. Maxwell Smith, we've not met him yet, so a chance to meet him. CJ Conrad will come on later as well. We'll get a chance to talk with him a little bit. And then we'll bring on players from this position as well and get a chance to talk with them as well. And we're going to have Ryan here to make sure that he holds them to the truth. They're not going to spread any stories. Last year we had things. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Matt Jackson who was telling us stories about Joseph Sewell, saying he locked him up in high school and a camp or something.
Yeah,
So we got somebody now to hold everybody accountable to their stories. So I'm really looking forward to when we have Coach Hawkins on and chatting with him. That's going to be a good time. Good time as well. And by the way, shout out to Coach Hawkins. He's been retweeting this episode and letting people know we're going to be on, and I appreciate that from him as well. Always appreciate support from Coach Wells, from all the coaching staff, from the university as well. Rickson, who's always a big help, and AD Roan, all those guys have been very helpful. So we're in a brand new season of the Sports Stove Local Hour. We're bringing you exciting stuff with Ryan. Ryan, I'm really excited for what's ahead. And for adding you to the team is going to be a lot of fun with the insight that we have. And as we get later on in the summer, we might be able to announce some other stuff going on, and looking forward to all that too. So, Ryan, any closing thoughts before we close out?
Nothing much. Just thank you for letting me join the team. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm very blessed. This will be very enjoyable, fun times talking.
It's going to be an absolute blast. Make sure you go get yourself some Mad Mushroom Pizza. You can order online. Use the code SPORTS5. Or if you go into the store, just mention the Sports Stove Podcast, and they'll hook you up with $5 off your order of $20 or more. IPM Pest and Termite, if you have any pest needs and you're in Central Kentucky, give them a shout. Let them know that Vince and Ryan sent you from the Sports Stove. And All Around Roofing, I promise you, if you have damage from the storms, that's a company you got to get a hold of. They're locally owned and operated. They're just great people. I trust them with everything I got. So make sure you give them a call as well. All right. Thank you for tuning in to today's edition of the Sports Stove Local Hour. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.